In the summer of 2014, my wife Joanne, who at the time was just my fiance, and I went on a cross-country trip for the summer with the hopes of hitting all of the biggest sites along the way, from the Grand Canyon to see the giant redwoods in Grizzly State Park, where they shot the Forest Moon of Endor scenes from Star Wars. It was a really great trip, despite a few hiccups, and we learned a lot of really good lessons along the way. The biggest of which might have been to stick with hotels because Airbnbs cannot be trusted. We were passing through Montana, and on Airbnb, we found a nice looking house to stay in that wasn't too expensive and didn't seem to have any neighbors aside from the owner of the house who lived on his own home right next door. When we got there, the house looked really nice. The interior was really simple and it only had one bedroom, a living room, a bathroom, and a kitchen, so it wasn't too big. It was perfect for just the two of us, especially since we only planned on staying for one night. After getting settled in, my fiance and I decided to get ourselves cleaned up, and as a way to save some water, we both decided to hop in the shower together. Now, before getting in, both of us put our bags on the bed in the bedroom, but if I remember right, neither of us had removed any of our belongings, aside from the clothes that we were going to change into. Then we both went into the bathroom at the same time and didn't get out until we were finished getting cleaned up. But when we got out of the bathroom and went into the bedroom, I noticed that there were more of the clothes on the bed than we left out. That means that someone was going through our stuff while we were in the bathroom. I tried to shake the thought out of my head and told myself that Joanne must have just been looking for something and I just wasn't remembering right. After getting dressed, the two of us were feeling hungry and decided to go out for some dinner at a local diner, which ended up being really pleasant. That would be the last nice feeling that we would have that night. After returning to the house that we had rented for the night, Joanne made her way up to the door and then inside as I grabbed the leftovers from the car and locked it up. But before I could finish locking the door, I heard her let out a loud scream. I ran into the house as fast as I could and saw Joanne pointing toward the bedroom. I asked her what happened, and she said that when she walked into the house, she heard something slam closed in the bedroom. Making my way over to the bedroom door, I very cautiously stuck my head in, but I didn't see anything. I looked over to the closet. The door was still open as we left it, and there was no one in the room as far as I could see. I walked over to the bed and checked underneath, but there was nothing. I tried to convince Joanne that the pressure change from the door opening and closing probably shut one of the cabinets in the kitchen or something, and eventually, we were able to calm ourselves down and get some sleep. I wish I had listened to her more though. Later that night, I woke up to use the bathroom, and as I was making my way back into the bed, I heard what sounded to me like heavy breathing. I looked over to Joanne, but it wasn't coming from that direction. It sounded like it was coming from the wall. I slowly made my way over to the wall near the nightstand beside our bed, and as I went to place my ear against it, I could hear the sound of something scampering away, followed by the sound of something closing shut. I ran over to the window to look outside, and I saw someone running across the yard toward the owner's house. I woke Joanne up, and we called the cops. We turned on the lights and we made sure all of the windows and doors were locked. After taking a closer look at the wall, I noticed a small seam that ran down the wall and was hidden right behind the nightstand. And after the police arrived, they checked it out and found a small cubby-like room that led to a small hatch on the back of the house. The police went up to the owner's house to question him about it, but they apparently couldn't find him, and according to them, even if the owner was hiding in the wall, it was his property, so it technically wasn't illegal. Joanne and I decided to book a room at the nearby hotel that had a vacancy and moved our stuff over there before deciding to never use Airbnb again. Sometimes the creepiest people live less than an hour away from you, and you wouldn't even know it unless you happened to interact with them. I learned this lesson when my house became infested with bed bugs. after my cousin visited and we had to get it fumigated. This meant that we all had to stay away from the house for 3 full days before it was safe for us to go back inside. So to make the best of a bad situation, my mom and dad decided to rent a nice-looking Airbnb that was just outside the city. It was supposed to be really exciting because I had never left the confines of New York City until then. So as a 13-year-old, I was pretty hyped, but things didn't exactly turn out as great as I hoped. When we pulled up to the house, it all looked great. They had a fenced-in yard and a long driveway with a basketball hoop and a ball for us to play with, and there was even a big motion sensor light in case we wanted to play outside after dark. My parents and I rushed into the house and began checking it out before ultimately getting settled in. Once we got comfortable, we ate some dinner and decided to go for a short walk afterwards to check out the area before it got too dark. The little neighborhood that the house was in looked nice. There was a few houses on the street and they all looked similar. The trees that lined the road were really nice, and the fact that I could actually hear some insects was astounding to me compared to the rush of the city. But on our way back to the house, things got a little odd when we noticed that someone was standing at the end of their driveway, just staring at the house. As we got closer, my dad said hello and introduced himself by letting the man know that we were staying there for a few days, but the man didn't respond. Instead, he just looked at my dad and then at my mom and me before turning around and walking down the street away from us. It was one of the weirdest things I had experienced up until that point in my life. The 3 of us made our way into the house quickly and double-locked the door behind us before sitting down and finding a movie to watch. And after a while, it was time to go to bed, and we were all feeling a bit weird after we saw that man. So instead of sleeping in separate rooms as we planned, we all decided to fall asleep in the living room. The 3 of us ended up falling asleep for a while before I was woken up by a sudden flash of light coming through the window. I looked toward it from the couch, and I could tell that it was the motion sensor light in the driveway, and it might have just turned on, so I got up to see what it was, thinking it might have been a dog or something. But I was wrong, and the scream that I let out woke up both my parents. They looked at me and then toward the window where they saw the same man from before, just standing at the end of the driveway, staring toward the house. My mom got out her phone to call the owner of the Airbnb as my dad ran to the front door and began screaming at the man. As soon as he saw my dad, he took off running, and when my mom got off the phone with the person we were renting the house from, we all decided to find different sleeping arrangements because according to the owner, that was just the neighbor. She said he's always been obsessed with the house and stopped by multiple times a day and night just to look at it for some reason. That didn't sit right with us, and we ended up just staying at a motel until our place was finished being fumigated.